Hey, hello everybody, welcome back to Momo vs. MTG. Today we'll be taking a look at another personal commander deck of mine on Shanid, Sleeper Scourge. For 1 mana and Mardu, you get a legendary creature, Human Knight. Menace, other legendary creature you control have Menace. Whenever you play a legendary land or cast a legendary spell, you draw a card and lose a life. So, this came from the Dominator United commander set. And originally the face commander deck was the Hada, which he isn't still in the deck. But I saw this funny fellow and was like, hey, it'd be funny to drop a lot of low CMC permanents that are legendary, also lands, draw a ton of cards, have a ton of value, and go on from there. This deck is really a battle cruiser deck. It sets the pace of the game, right? Because you're going to have a board state that is pretty powerful and gets there pretty fast since we're churning through cards, dropping a lot of stuff, and so forth. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. Take a look at the RAM package. We have our classic Signet, Soul Ring, Chromatic Lantern for fixing, Relic of Legends, probably the best RAM card in the deck, of course, because it fixes us for one thing, and also we have Eternal Legendary Creatures. We can use them for mana, so it really makes the deck go off. Especially cycling through Legendary Creature, permanent, stuff like that. But other stuff, not generic, we have Gilded Artisan. Our commander has Menace, so whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponents have more life than that player, create 2 treasures. So again, we can do this pretty often, pays for itself the first go around, and then just builds value. Furthermore, Reclusive Painter for Rakdos creates a treasure, very cool, and we use treasure, they get buffed, nice. Lothro Corrupt Sheriff for Orzhov, player casts their second spell, lose 1 life, create a treasure. A lot of these cards are from the Lord of the Rings set because they released a lot of nice legendary commanders to throw in here. So you'll be seeing that as a recurring theme. Dwarf Emissary, right? Cast a historic spell, create a treasure. Also has a nice goad mechanic, sure. So all the stuff that kind of pays for itself or helps pays for itself cycles through the deck a lot because again, all these creatures that are ramping us, permanents, we're gonna be drawing cards and losing a life off that. So keep an eye out for that. Lobel, Sackville, a lot of value here because it's a flash speed. Like to see that, enters the battlefield, exile target creature as put in opponent's graveyard from the battlefield this turn. Create X treasure tokens where X is the exile card's power. So usually there's removal throughout the game, can get at you a lot of treasures, or you make the scenario yourself, right? Remove the opponent's creatures, exile it, get the treasures that way. And again, a lot of value. Realm Breaker, the invasion tree. We have some Praetors, but the more important part, right, for 2, mill an opponent. They mill 3 cards, put a land from their graveyard and the battlefield tapped in your control. So ramps us, mills them a bit. So nice card, nice fit. And again, these legendary permanents cycle. Celestis for 3, right? Mana rock. But also, if it becomes day or night, which you could force it to, gain a life and you can loot. So nice. We have a lot of reanimation decks, so we don't even mind the discard. Usually it's an advantage sometimes. And of course, the Reaver Cleaver, right? For 3. Just too good in this deck, especially commander. Gives everything menace, so if it also gets +1/+1 trample, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, treat that many treasures. With their commander alone, that's 4 treasures. So this can really expedite the game in your own game plan. Love to see that card. And Sushi, one of the Kamigan Neon Dynasty Dragons, which we have them all in the deck, but this one can, when it dies, either impulse draw or create 3 treasures, more important for us. So we already have the draw engine and their commander. Kenrick's Royal Funeral for 2 in Orzhov. Exile 2 target legendary cards from your graveyard. You draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the greatest mana value among those cards. Neat. And then legendary spells cost 1 less for each card exiled with Kenrick's Royal Funeral. So super cool card. One of the best cards in deck because it makes our legendary stuff cheaper. And on top of it, draws us cards and just gains us a ton of value. Allows us to go through our deck pretty fast. So that is the ramp situation. And then let's just go through all the good stuff. Take a look. So we have Luxor, Giada's Gift. Very powerful card in the deck. We have a decent amount of Planeswalkers. For 1 mana, right? That's the most powerful part probably, is 1 mana legendary permanent. Cycles, lose life, draw a card with her commander out. So something to note. And then added bonus, right? Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. So again, those Planeswalkers get +1/+1 for each loyalty, and of course Planeswalker equipped with 1, but you can put on a not Planeswalker for 3, and something like a Yoshimaru, right? if it's growing because of this deck, it's +1/+1 counters. If it has 10, Equip Luxior suddenly has 20, 20/20 bolster worth of power. So, can be a big momentum swinger that way. So something to keep an eye out for. Shadow Spear cycles, right? Nice. Also gives us trample lifelink. Lifelink is very important in this deck because we will be draining ourselves by drawing cards in this deck pretty often. And also nice bonus permits your opponent's control, lose hexproof and indestructible to end a turn if you pay for 1. So nice to see. Stone Etch, 1 mana cycles. It is Graveyard Hate. Very important to Commander format to have. This deck has a decent bit of it. And also doubly cycles to just get rid of a player's graveyard and draw a card. Nice to see. Umazai Jite, one of my favorite equipments. Shout out to Cable Gannon. He usually plays with this card in Vintage Cube Draft. Cool to see. For 2, equip creature deals combat damage. Pretty easy to do with Menace. Get 2 charge counters. And also we can remove those charge counters to either buffer a creature or shrink a creature, or gain life. So love to see how many options are on this card. And last equipment we have here really is Ember Cleaver for 6 mana. Can be reduced by the amount of attacking creatures, flash speed, and gives something double strike and trample and +1/+1. So very, very powerful, especially with like a Reaver Cleaver. You should be creating tons of treasures, right? Then we can take a quick look at a board wipe situation. So Meat Hut Massacre. Very good for us, because when our stuff dies, opponents lose life, and when their stuff dies, we gain life. So, nice to see that effect on a legendary permanent. Urzaruna's Blast for 5 mana. Exile all non-land permanents that are legendary. One-sided board wipes. So good, and there's a ton of them in this deck. So, funny short story on this is, do yourself a favor. Never have a 4-player Dahadapod. I thought it was funny. Everybody else saw it coming. But yeah, if you want a game that entails more magic, that would be the pod for you, because 2 Urzaruna's Blast were cast throughout the game and did absolutely jack all, right? Because everything's legendary. So if you want to like that 2-3 hour game, that's the kind of pod for you. Was pretty funny though. Would not recommend doing it again. Anyways, we have the Eternal Wanderer. Right, for that -4 ability. Also, the other stuff, flickering stuff, we can do that. But yeah, board wipe. Piru the Volatile for 2 generic Mardu. Elder Dragon, flying lifelink, pretty sweet. Sacrifices itself unless you pay 3, so built-in sack outlet, kind of cool to see. When it dies, it deals 7 damage to each non-legendary creature. Again, a one-sided board wipe. And that lifelink is you'll be gaining all that life back. So very, very valuable creature. Now we're taking a look at just the good stuff creatures that I like to see in the deck. So Son of Rock was originally the OG Commander deck partnered with Yoshimaru, which we'll see. And basically I adapted that deck because it had already had a lot of legendary permanents to add black to it and add more legendary permanents, take out some other stuff. So this deck, it might be the best card, on face value, because 0 mana actually cycles for free. And you get a body, 0/1, first strike, Menace Trample. Cool. That you can beef up with equipment. So, all nice stuff here. Especially the free cycling, right? Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer for red. Deals combat damage to player, create treasure. Cool. And then you can cast it. Also cool. So, a lot of value here. And of course, Yoshimaru, which we touched on in multiple instances for white mana. Now the legendary permanent enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1. So you're guaranteed basically 2 ++1s at the minimum. Because usually you're going to be casting a legendary permanent spell. And also another legendary permanent enters the battlefield, right? And also the land. So land drop and creature, whatever, permanent, you're getting 2 ++1s at minimum. This dog has gotten big. The best boy in Magic, right? Alyssa Core for Orzhov is a drain gain effect. Nice to see. Thalia is kind of one-sided because we run 40 creatures in this deck. So a lot of our spells are creatures, so we don't mind paying the extra tax since we were creating a lot of treasures anyways, but slows down the game for opponents, especially the spell slingers. Love to see it. Kadric Soul Kindler, probably one of the best creatures in the deck for 4 mana here. Whenever another non-token legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you can pick one. If you do, create a token that's a copy of it. That token gains haste, sacrifice to begin the next end step. So we have a lot of dice triggers, which we'll take a look at real quick, like Koshiro, the Evening Star, all the Neon Dynasty dragons, which have dice triggers like Ao Dawn Sky. So creating multiple copies of them is a lot of value in the deck. And we would do that often. Like, it's the best one probably, right, is of course Piru. Piru enters, make a copy of them. So it's a board wipe at the end of your turn, and also you have a Piru just still around. Very powerful board state. And like I said again, like this deck sets the pace of the game, usually, right? It's a battle cruiser deck, battle cruiser style of deck, where just it likes to get a lot of permanents on the field, protect them, reanimate them, swing for game. That is the general game plan. Then we have Drana Linvala, 4 mana. Steals the activate abilities of your opponents, and you can do them, but also they can activate them themselves. So, very powerful card. Love to see these team up commanders from Archer Machines. I think it was a really cool set. I don't know what they call them. I call them team up because they look like they're teaming up. Because they're not partners, right? Because there's already a partner mechanics. So let's just call it team up. You have Cardu, Doom Scourge for 4. Probably the best goad mechanic in the game. Enters the battlefield till next turn, creature your opponent control. Attack each combat if able, and attack another player, then you if able. And whenever another attack creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain a life. So, nice way to make people attack each other. That's not you, of course, right? And I said the best goad mechanic because it even applies to the hasty creatures they want to play or something that enter the battlefield fresh on their turn. They're still forced to attack someone else. And also, drain gain. Love to see it. And mentioned earlier, Ao Dawn Sky, one of my favorite cards. Love the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty just set in general. Commander decks on each Ao and Kuro. Who knows, I might do all the Spirit Dragons at some point. For 5 mana, when it dies, you turn through the top 7 of your cards, put any number of non-land permanents, total mana for the lesser among them on the battlefield, put the rest in the bottom of your library in random order, or buffer whole team, right? 2+1/+1 counters in each permanent you control. It's a creature or vehicle. So I love dual modal cards, and these deliver, right? So you can either turn for more permanents, which we have a ton of, or buffer a board. And Gandalf, probably one of the best cards in the deck. Flash speed, caster legendary stuff. If it had flash, artifacts too, why not? Just add all the text on there. If a legendary permanent, so it's a Panharmonicon and a Death Harmonicon built in for legendary stuff. So it's just too much value here, right? Like, you're usually winning the game if you have this out left unchecked. And yeah, touch on Kuro, one of the legendary dragon spirits. Drains their opponents, we gain that much life. So that is the good stuff of the deck right here. You'd love to see the stuff, and you're going to just have a ton of value. Usually you just outvalue your opponents too. That's if left unchecked. And it's hard to keep you in check with lots of effects we'll go into later on. Speaking of, like, this Lord effect that also gives ward, right? Flowering the White Tree, Lord of the Rings. Legendary creatures, which is basically all of them, have ward 1 and +2/+1. So buffs or menace creatures and gives them ward 1 on an enchantment that sticks around. A lot of value, man. Advar the Curse for 5, right? Death Touch, Lifelink, buffs are board. Just too good. So a couple Lord effects, because we will be swinging with creatures a lot, and since they have menace, they should be getting through, which is cool to see. Down in our protection package, we have Skrelv, right? It's basically the mother runes for legendary creatures. Gives them hexproof, protection from the color, and can't be blocked, right? By creatures that color. So, very cool. General's Enforcer, we took a look at her. If you caught this, ding ding, good for you. But her commander is a human knight, right? So we look for those synergies whenever possible. General's Enforcer for 2. We have a lot of legendary humans in our deck. So that's also added bonus besides just our commander. Also, Graveyard Hate. Exile target card from graveyard. Creature, create a 1/1. Even, sure. Nice to see Graveyard Hate. Jarina enters the battlefield. Exile target player's graveyard. So we have a lot of Graveyard Hate. We have a lot of answers for a lot of stuff. In particular, Graveyard Hate. But again, other stuff. Like Boromir. Opponent. Again, protects their board, sacrifice Boromir, creatures you control indestructible, ring tempts you. Cool. Nice added bonus. But whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was cast, suspend it, counter that spell. So all those free counter spells are free, pays no mana if you control a commander, or Cascade in particular, this is so good against, turns all that shenanigans offline. So you can usually kind of shape the game into your mold. How really control the state. So again, that's why I say you set the pace of the game, because you're stopping a lot of shenanigans from opponents, which is cool to see in the deck. So really fun to pilot. So these are all nice protection of our board, but even if they do go away, it's not too big of a deal because we have lots of reanimation. Takanuma, free land that can mill and return a creature to our hand. Vorad Stronghold, repeatable creature reanimation to the top of our library. We could usually draw it, right? Because our commander has a draw engine built into it. Samwise, a Stout Heart, right? 2 mana. Return 1 target permanent that's put to the graveyard. So high value target that left the battlefield this turn, put her back to your hand and the ring tempts you. So we have some ring tempting mechanic, which I should touch on real quick. Speaking of, because we come across Ratadrabic with a sack outlet and a legendary creature, or that tempts the ring, or with Boromir himself go infinite, right? Because Boromir, when he dies, you get the ring tempting trigger, which you leave on the stack right underneath of Ratadrabix, because you want Ratadrabix to go off first. Because another legendary creature control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary. It's a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. So again, immediate reanimation on our legendary creatures that die, so it's just good in the deck. But it goes infinite with Boromir because when the ring tempts the token that comes in that's a copy of Boromir, it becomes legendary again and has the built-in sack outlet. So any drain effects goes infinite, like a Meat Hook Massacre, so 3-card combo there, or infinite ETB triggers just by itself. So very, very, very strong. But on its own with all the other legendary creatures, like 2 Kushiros, let's say, ends games pretty fast. Going down, Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord, gives our creatures lifelink, which is probably one of the most important parts. Can gain you immediate life, but again, reanimation for right away. You can -4, and funny enough, our commander, ding ding. If you were thinking this, you're correct. Is 4 mana. So yeah, grab any legendary creature basically that's 4 or less, or later on more. Teshar, a Censor's Apostle for 4 mana, basically the Sun Titan for historic spells in our deck. Obviously, return target creature card with mana if you have 3 or less to the battlefield whenever you cast a historic spell. So very, very, very powerful effect because we have a lot of cheap stuff that we want back. Junji, again, one of the other Neon Dynasty dragons, very powerful for 5. When it dies, flying menace, cool. Discard. Each opponent discard 2 cards, lose 2 life. Nice control of the board, or just reanimate something non-dragon creature from a graveyard. Any graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Cool. And one of these legendary sorceries you don't see too often, Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Returns a creature or planeswalker, which we have a lot of planeswalkers, so we can do both, one or the other. And also destroy a target creature. This gets exiled, but a lot of value in our deck. And probably the best card in the deck, Primal Glorious Rebirth for 7 mana. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you can really have a momentum swing after a board wipe if you have this in hand, of course, right? Cool to see. And of course, we do have Dahada. Georgiou is a face commander for the precon. But yeah, give our legendary creatures Vigilance, Lifelink, Indestructible. Cool, good stuff. -3, reveal top 4. Put any number of legendary cards in the hand, so we keep the ones we want, and then put the rest in the graveyard, right? Create treasures. The -11, not gonna happen too much. Gain control of all permanents, non-land permanents, until end of turn. So if you pull it off, very strong too. So I love it having options. This deck gives you so many options and so many outs to so many things. So that's why it's a very fun deck to pilot and go forth. Then we take a look at a removal package. We have Lauren for 3 mana, Artifact or Enchantment, and draws a card. Nice added bonus. A little more expensive, Kaya for 7, right? Hexproof. Drain life, gain life, cool. Draw 2 cards, each opponent's scry, cool. And also exile target creature enchantment, so nice hard removal. And you get a copy of it if it wasn't in order as a 1/1 spirit creature with flying. So all really, really, really nice stuff built in on this Planeswalker here. We have Valky, God of Lies for 2. Basically, you can steal a creature from each opponent's hand, and then it could become that creature where X is its mana value. So nice, fun little interaction for you, not for your opponents. Or the other side, of course, right? Tibalt for 7. You may play exile cards that are exiled with Tibalt. Of course, and spend mana those any color to cast those spells, right? So all these ways to exile cards with Tibalt here, either artifact creature, removal, top of the library, or all cards from all graveyards if you get there, right? Um, so yeah, really a momentum swinger. It really makes the grindier games possible. So nice card to see. Sigard, God favored for 3 is kind of flash speed, protection for God creatures, cool. First strike, cool. Enters the battlefield, exit with 1 target attacking or blocking creature until it leaves the battlefield. And that's the very important part. So creature removal, Elwyn, Fierce Knight, creature removal, probably the best, right? Especially for the deck. Lord of the Rings has had so many good cards. For 4 mana, haste, enters the battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls with greater power. Legendary creatures you control gain protection from each of that creature's colors on the turn. So yeah, hoses 5-color decks if you have a lot of legendary creatures you want to swing out with. But yeah, great way to like just get your creatures through. So you'll love to see it. Rankle Torbrand, the partner commander from, or team up commander, sorry, from March of the Machines for 5 mana, right? Flying for strike, haste, deals combat damage. Everyone creates treasure. Everyone sacrifices creatures, whatever modes you need. And then the last one, of course, Source would deal damage to a player battle this turn. It deals that much damage plus 2 instead. So yeah, great way to speed up the clock of the game for sure. And speaking of speeding up the clock, Sword in the Lidless kind of ends games for 5 mana. Gain control of target creature opponent controls. On tap, it gains haste. Steal the best creature, swing with it, and then of course this 3 mana here. Pump each creature, right? +2/+0 on the turn, and each opponent loses 2 life. So you're pumping your creatures for 2 that all have menace, mind you, and also straight off the bat just draining the opponents. Sometimes you just end the game by draining them with this, depending how much mana you have left. So powerful cards. Shieldred, right? This card just does too much. Mother Machines, 5 mana. Chupacabra and a stick for everybody, right? Non-token creature, even more important, basically. Or Playcrafter, I'm sorry. Playcrafter and a stick, let's go with that. But the other side, for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature. So again, double removal. If you flip it over, each opponent mills 3 cards, then discards 3 cards, mills 3 cards. Cool. Then the last is just, Dark Realm Rises, Rise of Dark Realm, something like that. Put all creature cards from all graveyards in the battlefield under your control, except you transform this back, right, and return it to the battlefield. So too much value here. This goes off. You're usually winning games, which indicating more 5 mana. Deals combat. If one or more creatures deal combat damage to you, each opponent sacrifices a creature that dealt combat damage to you this turn. The ring tempts you. So all nice stuff here, right? Especially if they swing at you 1 creature, you know it's dying, and then you can give it indestructible by discarding a card, which you don't mind too much since we have so much card draw. So cool creature, has flying, nice. And then lastly, we're gonna take a look at these sack outlets we have because they are pretty important, especially with Rad Drabek, all that stuff. Nice to have. Phyrexian Tower, sacrifice creature, add black, cool. It's a land, so kind of free. Commissioner, Savine Rain, 3 mana from the Warhammer set. Whenever it attacks, each opponent loses X life or X number of other attacking creatures. We'll hopefully be doing this a lot. Draining our opponents, and also we could sacrifice a creature to gain 2 life and draw a card. So nice value here. Grimma, right? Wormtongue, I love this card from Lord of the Rings for 3. Your opponents can't gain life. So, like I said again, we have a lot of answers for a lot of stuff. Life gain decks, throw this guy down. Then we can sacrifice another creature, target player loses 1 life. And if it was legendary, we're amassing orcs. So all nice fun stuff. I think it fits pretty well in the deck. Gehenny, Undying Partisans, a free sack outlet. Love this card. Just one of my personal favorite cards. Aetherborn Vampire, haste. Grows itself if opponent creature dies. Cool. And you can sacrifice another creature, gains an indestructible to end a turn. Cool. All good stuff here. And lastly, kind of, of course, is Yawgmoth Random Physician for 4. Protection from humans. It does so much, right? Pay a life, sacrifice a creature, put a -1/-1 counter up to one target creature, draw a card. So it's drawing cards, removing opponent's creatures, sack outlet. Too much value here. And of course, we have Mondrak, Glorious Dominus for 4. So doubles our tokens, whether it be our Cadric, all right? Our Cadric tokens coming in, so we get 2, which is, a lot of value. You create twice that many. My apologies. Reaver Cleaver, ton of treasures. Create twice that many treasures, a lot of value. And then we could sacrifice, artifacts to creatures. So sack outlet here, put a indestructible counter on Mondrak. So really, really nice stuff. And then lastly, the creature that tutors for something in your deck, which you really don't need tutors because you're gonna be drawing a ton of cards anyways. But yeah, this guy, one of my favorite creatures for 3, Kaldheim. Shout out to that set. Has the boast ability, Death Touch. When it attacks, you can pay 2. Target player searches their library for a card, then shuffles that library, puts it on top. So really, really neat here. Tutor for what you want, and so forth. So, yeah. That is the general gist of the deck. As you can see, it's a lot of value creatures and a lot of stuff that can, hose your opponents a bit. And yeah, you just want to be controlling the battlefield in that front, and you have a lot of ways to do it. So we only have 10 basic lands here, and the fixing is most important here. Because we have Mardu for our commander pretty early on. So, and we have mostly white and black pips, some red, but less of it. So keep that in mind. But yeah, we want all the stuff that fixes us. So the basic lands that aren't legendary are going to be stuff that fixes as best as possible. Let me harp on Plaza Heroes, probably the best fixing in a deck, because all our stuff is legendary basically, right? And adds 1 mana of any color. And in Great Hall of Sibel, came out Lord of the Rings, love this card. But yeah, it turns, basically 2 lands into fixing by itself. So good in the deck. We have some other fixing that is legendary, like, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, so at least we have access to swamps, stuff like that. And in some of these, legendary lands tap for their colored mana, but not often. Not often. Unitaka, the Cloud Keeper, comes in tap, but basically is a Soul Ring or more accurate Ancient Tomb for legendary spells, but doesn't deal damage to you, so very, very, a lot of value there. Nykthos gets a lot of value because we have a lot of permanent cards that have colored pips for devotion. Mountain Dew, again, Lord of the Rings might be one of the best fixing, adds black or red by dealing damage and turns into a border wipe later on. Super cool to see. Yeah, you can take a look at the legendary lands yourself. Those are the ones I really wanted to point out, but basically, the important text on these legendary lands is legendary, draws a card with our commander. So, yeah, this has been Shanid, Sleeper Scourge. If you stuck around this long, thanks for hanging out. If there's another deck you want me to take a look at, please let me know. If not, more stuff is coming out. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. What you think about the deck down below. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. And this has been Momo versus MTG. See you in the next one.